Now let's move to retirement risk number 4, healthcare and long-term care costs. This is one of the most important topics we'll discuss today because unlike market fluctuations or tax rates, healthcare challenges eventually touch almost every family in some way. And for me, this topic is deeply personal. As I shared earlier, I've watched serious illness affect people I love. I've watched families face difficult medical diagnoses. I've watched people make decisions they never imagined they would have to make. And I've seen firsthand how quickly healthcare costs can become a financial issue if there isn't a plan in place. The reality is that most people spend years preparing for retirement, but very little time preparing for what healthcare may look like during retirement. Let's be honest. When most people think about retirement, they imagine travel, time with family, golf, fishing, grandchildren, freedom. Very few people sit around thinking about long-term care. Very few people wake up excited to discuss healthcare planning. Unfortunately, ignoring the risk doesn't make it disappear. In fact, one of the biggest financial threats to retirement today isn't necessarily the stock market. It's healthcare costs, and more specifically, the costs associated with extended care. Many people assume Medicare will cover everything. It won't. Medicare is an excellent program, but there are limits. Long-term custodial care is often where families encounter unexpected expenses. Home health care, assisted living, memory care, nursing care, these services can become extremely expensive over time. And unlike a short-term medical event, long-term care expenses can continue for years. That's what makes them so dangerous financially. I often ask people a simple question: what happens if you need care for 3 years? What happens if your spouse needs care for 5 years? What happens if one of you remains healthy while the other requires extensive support? Most people have never really thought through those scenarios, not because they're irresponsible, because life is busy. They're focused on careers, family, responsibilities. The future feels far away. Then one day it isn't. One of the things I learned from my family's experiences is that illness doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't care about your plans. It's healthcare costs, and more specifically, the costs associated with extended care. Many people assume Medicare will cover everything. It won't. I remember when my daughter-in-law was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Nobody saw that coming. She was young, she had a family, she had a future. Then suddenly everything changed. Later, when my daughter faced breast cancer and subsequent health challenges, it reinforced that same lesson. The families that navigate these situations most successfully are not necessarily the wealthiest families. They're often the families that planned ahead. The families that created options, the families that understood risk, the families that had flexibility. Notice a pattern? We've talked about flexibility with taxes. We've talked about flexibility with retirement income. Now we're talking about flexibility with health care. That's because flexibility is one of the most valuable assets a retiree can have. Many people spend decades trying to maximize returns. Very few spend time maximizing flexibility, yet flexibility often determines how successfully someone responds when life doesn't go according to plan. I once spoke with a retired couple who had accumulated substantial retirement assets. They had done a wonderful job saving. But when we started discussing long-term care, they admitted nobody had ever brought it up, not once. They had planned for retirement, but never for serious illness. That's not unusual. I see it all the time. Good people, responsible people, successful people, simply unaware of the potential impact healthcare costs can have. And here's something else that often gets overlooked. Long-term care isn't just a financial issue. It's an emotional issue. It's a family issue. When a spouse becomes a caregiver, everything changes. When adult children become involved, everything changes. Financial decisions suddenly become personal decisions. And personal decisions are often harder. That's why planning matters. The goal isn't to predict the future. The goal is to prepare for possibilities. That's exactly what we did in the military. We didn't know what challenges we'd face, but we knew challenges would come, so we prepared. Retirement planning should work the same way. We may not know exactly what healthcare needs we'll face, but we know healthcare risk exists. And if we know the risk exists, it deserves attention. One of the greatest gifts you can give your family is preparation. Preparation creates choices. Preparation creates confidence. Preparation reduces stress during difficult times, and ultimately, that's what good financial planning is all about. Not simply growing assets, not simply chasing returns, but helping people create a life where they're better prepared for whatever comes next. Because retirement isn't just about having enough money, it's about protecting your quality of life. It's about protecting your spouse. It's about protecting your family. That's why healthcare and long-term care planning deserve a seat at the retirement table. Remember, education changes outcomes. Strategy changes futures.